What happened to her first off? What? I'm not trying to like make fun of her because obviously if I do that I'm done. Like obviously everyone's gonna cancel me, but it looks like she got like plastic surgery and they butchered you, Lex. No offense, but what happened? Like beforehand you look so much better, but this ain't right. Like is this what happened after you and Ethan broke up? Anyway, let's watch his next video that he made just 8 days ago. Lex Updog doubles down on her lies, super mega situation.
Super Mega situation. Lex Updog, friend of Super Mega, lied about Super Mega making her homeless amongst many other things and accused Dawn of SA towards her. It's been a long time since this drama has been relevant, but it appears that this is going to be something that will be relevant again as Lex Updog dropped a 45-minute video adding more to the story in regards to Dawn and Super Mega, which is
Hold on. Hold on.
a 45-minute
What happened to her first off? What? I'm not trying to like make fun of her because obviously if I do that I'm done. Like obviously everyone's gonna cancel me, but it looks like she got like plastic surgery and they butchered you, Lex. No offense, but what happened? Like beforehand you look so much better, but this ain't right. Like is this what happened after you and Ethan broke up?
video adding more to the story in regards to Dawn and Super Mega, which is interestingly timed seeing that Super Mega recently announced their return and seems to be performing.
That's right. They beat the allegations. And they're doing so much better now. Look at that, chat.
Pretty well. The timing of this video alone already sets a flag that doesn't bode too well for her, as would be evident by anyone who knows the story and its intricacies. The first time this cancellation attempt happened, to most people it was evident that it was a smear due to rough falling out, and now that Super Mega is back and better than ever with a huge second wind, Lex decides to make a video following up Dawn's and Super Mega's responses nearly 9 months after the fact, nearly a whole year. Interesting, isn't it? First 3 minutes into this, she's already using some pretty interesting language, loaded and colorful. Pretty interesting verbal gymnastics here, using words such as emotionally traumatizing, coercion, even misreads a line that she directly had to edit and didn't bother to correct.
Using that against me to emotionally blackmail me, emotionally blackmailing me over being sad at Ryan's birthday party, Dawn downplaying what he did, not realizing that that's coercion, asking someone multiple times over and over. During this time, I was under no impression that anything traumatizing had occurred. However, I realize now that this was extremely traumatizing for me.
I wouldn't have an issue with someone using whatever language they wanted to explain their circumstances if the information they were presenting was consistent, but in this case, it simply isn't. It's pretty evident the response she's attempting to garner for this. With that in mind, let's focus on the details at hand that she revealed, saying that she was coerced because she was asked multiple times, then after getting to Dawn's apology, she adds more to the story that wasn't elaborated upon prior.
Dawn downplaying what he did, not realizing that that's coercion, asking someone multiple times over and over. I don't really understand how that's not hard to understand unless you really just like downplaying assault. Later I asked again, and she said yes, but be careful not to be too rough. Hold on, let me share this. He says, I then profusely apologized and we ended up watching TV and going to bed after. That is not how I recall it at all. So that's interesting, because how I recall it is consenting to sex because I was freaked out and scared after that, and then getting choked and blacking out. That's what I remember.
This right here sounds like she's just grasping at something that can simply not be corroborated. It's he said, she said. If you guys were intimate and agreed to do something, regret again is not sexual assault. Sure, you may have been uncomfortable after the fact and you can claim that you were traumatized, but these are issues that should be entirely discussed privately and resolved privately instead of making it a public issue for the obvious goal of character assassination. Sexual assault isn't something that you can loosely throw around. Issues like these where people are not in their right mind during intimate moments happen often. Any established adult can understand this. I'm not defending sexual assault or bad behavior by any means, but both of you corroborate the fact that you two were intimate and eventually did do the deed. So why is it a problem after the fact? If your problem is that he asked you multiple times and you agreed, which made you uncomfortable, yes, that's obnoxious and terrible behavior from him. It's an annoying past thing to do, but that's an issue that should have been resolved privately.
Yeah, but obviously she ended up just using all of this so that way she can just smear, Super Mega and try to take him out, which failed miserably.
Like what most childish and immature individuals like to hear, that's not sexual assault, and using the word coercion to make it sound harsher than what happened is very sneaky. Let me say something important before I move on from this point here, something that a lot of people need to understand. Uncomfortable situations and intimate moments happen all of the time. Repeatedly asking someone to do something is a very gross and irritating thing to do, yes, and I disavow it entirely. For those of us who have actually experienced life, any of us can sometimes be asked to do things that we are not typically comfortable with. It's something that anyone can feel pressure for. Unfortunately, women are more often than not likely to experience this behavior in much worse ways. That being said, if what she said is to be believed, then if Don did do what she is claiming, at the very worst, he is just an asshole, not an abuser. As for the part where she
Yeah, it doesn't sound like abuse at all. I mean, obviously, he's kind of a dick for that, and obviously, that's it. Like, obviously, they should talk about it privately, and obviously, it sounds like a thing that they should have never done, but they still did it anyway, and they kind of regret it. Obviously, that's not full blown sexual assault. Man, this is so annoying, chat. Okay, you cannot get what's going on in my mind when it comes to just thinking about this whole thing.
She said she remembers choking and blacking out, unable to remember anything after. That's something that was previously mentioned in a different context. Previously, she mentioned that she couldn't do anything while being choked, and now she's mentioning that she blacked out entirely.
He like choked me on my windpipe. Like he was like trying to choke me in a sexy way, but he was like choking me and I was like breathing like very audibly, like not well. And I think at this point I was too scared to like say anything, and I didn't think he would listen because he just didn't before. So at that point, it was just easier to do whatever else he wanted instead of go through that again.
This is a somewhat different story than what we were told at first. All of that is if we can take what she's saying at face value, seeing as Lex has been caught lying in the past and her story has yet to remain consistent even in this video. Her credibility isn't entirely there. Something else I want to really highlight is how she's subtly changing the story and implicating Dawn of admitting to doing something by recontextualizing the words presented in an apology that she's only briefly grabbing excerpts from.
The man who assaulted me essentially admitted that he did it a very roundabout, terrible way. I mean, obviously, somebody that would do that wouldn't admit to it, but he corroborated my story and hit it in real time. And people caught on to it after he had deleted the first one that incriminated him more and began to hold him accountable for being a weirdo and a creep and lamenting his wrongdoings because they liked his art or respected him.
On top of that, she added additional details that weren't mentioned prior.
Getting choked and blacking out. That's what I remember. So that's interesting that you don't remember such a discrepancy. Very cool.
Probably because it never happened.
If this really happened, why not emphasize or reveal more details the first time around? As a matter of fact, you don't even cover this topic for too long. You talk about this for maybe 6 minutes at most, while randomly bringing up Jim and his apology for no reason other than to say you were a victim on more than one occasion. And then you implicate Jim by using his apology against him to paint him as a sexual gremlin. Keep in mind, these people are apologizing for making you uncomfortable, which is something that can happen to anyone on Earth at any time without it being sexual assault. They are not admitting to assaulting you, but that's what you're implicating them for. Using words such as essentially admitted to, even contradicting yourself and saying that Don wouldn't outright admit to sexual assault, and that's probably due to his side of the story, which you failed to fully respond to in this video, only nitpicking certain lines. In my opinion, the way it looks like is that you're mad at the people around you, and by this I mean Matt and Ryan, as they didn't take your personal complaint as something to fire someone over. Because again, it was entirely a personal problem, so you had to make it public to force them into doing so, bringing them down out of spite in the process. And this could definitely seem to be the case, seeing as one of the first things you mentioned in the video is the fact that Matt and Ryan didn't give you the response you were looking for.
I go into Matt and Ryan's reaction or lack thereof.
As a matter of fact, this is more than just the case, as further in the video you specifically call out Matt and Ryan for not taking accountability for...
The true lack of accountability stems from a lack of condemnation from Matt and Ryan to Dawn. How? Well, they decide to focus on publicly shaming me for speaking out about what happened rather than simply condemn what took place.
They were not even shaming you. They were trying to debunk everything that, they're being accused of. And obviously they're trying to save themselves and obviously the company because, well, you and everyone else, well, you guys were just, slandering them.
They knowingly use their social influence to shift the audience focus from Dawn and their actions to questioning my motives and shifting the blame onto me.
For what? These people aren't your babysitters. They don't owe you anything. They don't need to say anything in regards to something personal like this. As far as they're concerned, they don't know what happened in your personal life and probably didn't have enough information to fire someone, seeing as they probably had two different sides of the story, which would explain why they would want both of you to meet and talk these issues out. But you did not want to do that. You did not want to talk about these issues at hand. You were adamant about that.
I go into Matt and Ryan's reaction, or lack thereof, and detailing their dishonesty towards me after coming forward about the assault by Dawn, asking with help to avoid him, and the subsequential attempt to make out without my consent.
You even have an entire segment in your video where you specifically call Super Mega out again for all of this, but you provide no solution for this yourself except wanting to get back at Dawn. It's very vindictive. It's funny, really, because throughout this segment, you claim that you don't have a vendetta.
From how passive-aggressively Ryan words his post, I don't know if Ryan understands why victims speak out at all. They speak out on what happened as if I'm only bringing it up because I'm mad, a personal vendetta. They phrase everything as if this event happened in a vacuum, rather than this being the eventual outcome of pledging support to someone, then ignoring and gaslighting them when they want to talk, making the choice to say that everything I said except for the assault was a lie and putting it into question, and also claiming that everything that wasn't written explicitly in writing was a lie, while also claiming to support me, have supported me right out the gate, before shifting negative focus onto me rather than having any words to say about the guy who assaulted me.
Yet you contradict yourself by directly stating that you have an issue with the way they handled the situation, which they really had no reason to handle in the first place. What's consistent in the videos you posted so far is that you made two very long videos where Dawn is only a fraction of the topic of discussion, something that you put in the forefront of everything. Yet despite that, what also remains consistent is that the majority of your videos is specifically targeting Matt and Ryan, people who don't owe you anything. It's clear that you do have a vendetta here. You want yourself to be the center of attention while also detracting, insulting, and making everything they did out to be a net negative to make it seem as if they harmed you. You even try so hard to make yourself the good guy in the situation that you can't help but to bring up Daniel and his passing as something that they treated incorrectly in an attempt to smear them. This is something that happens several times throughout your video.
This post, Ryan does not clarify any of the assumptions that he was making about my video description, whatever, saying whatever that means, assuming everything he didn't know about was about Daniel. For some reason, Ryan's retelling of events and quotes attributed to me are spaced out throughout the post, and in doing so, makes it seem as if I went on a tirade about how his friend committed suicide and not a part of my 2-hour video that is less than 15 seconds long. He passive-aggressively acknowledges that he did not want to talk about it, which I had no idea about aside from the fact that he rejected talking about things over a year ago. So I'm not sure how I would have known unless I could read your mind, Ryan. And despite that, my quote is attributed to Matt, to which you both had the same justification, to which I say, that's fine, but if you're going around being a douchebag and then you start telling people that didn't know your friend that killed himself that he was a coward, it's gonna be kind of hard not to take it as a actual insult. My only ever way of having found out that Ryan was uncomfortable was when I read it when the rest of me and his 300,000 followers did. Rather than having the chance to have spoken to him in private before going public, an offer I've extended multiple times when apparently I shouldn't have. In this post, Ryan passive-aggressively demands I seek accountability. To assume that I was speaking on Daniel is disgusting. Did you even watch my video? Because there's no other way to take how you speak in your post besides that I was talking about Daniel, when I was talking about how he was being spoken about by y'all who are still alive, speaking in a disgusting way, which I didn't even accuse Ryan of. I've only accused Matt of because I heard him say it twice, and I will stand by that.
You're so vindictive about the fact that no one believed your lies and that Matt and Ryan caught you lying that you're outright burning everyone in this situation. You're doing this all to preserve your self-image and to garner attention as you throw Nick under the bus again for apparently bad reporting and for talking about himself too much in a video meant to tell your story.
Nick's follow-up video, August 2nd, Nick decided to make a follow-up video where Nick followed up and just gave a summary of what had happened since my video, or his last video, I guess.
He did, however, bring up the text not mentioned by Matt, which I appreciate. Although I think by the time Nick's video came out, people had already been encouraged to connect the dots by Matt, so I'm not sure how well received it even was. Nick ends the video by talking about himself a little bit too much, and he says it's the last time he's making a video about my assault. Unfortunately, that was not the truth.
Nick made 5 different apologies, apologized for pretty much any involvement, says he shouldn't have involved himself.
Oh yeah, he shouldn't, but he still did because obviously he was friends with Ethan is Online, who's your boyfriend. So yeah, that's why he got himself involved and why he that's why he mostly got the backlash because he was the one who had the bigger voice, I guess. And look what happened to him now. Like he's basically irrelevant. Like his channel's dead.
Invalidating. Nick was just basically apologizing for whatever he was getting harassed for in the moment, and then said he was going to stop posting about it and then cut me off. I sent Nick our first text since March 2022, and he doesn't respond, and then goes on to make a 5th apology. Crazy, right?
Not really, because obviously he doesn't want to listen to you anymore because all you just speak is lies.
And his 5th apology is still up. That's the I make harmful content one. And the goalposts have been moved so much, he's basically apologizing for like his whole career, which that just has nothing to do with me at that point. But Nick was being held performative by only standing up for me when it was convenient for him. So that's pretty like dirty move. He needs to get better values for real, for real.
A story that even he realized was not entirely credible. All in all, this response by Lex appears to be another attempt to smear Don and Super Mega by using entirely personally fueled circumstantial evidence rather than outright evidence that proves Super Mega to be liars or that they actually mistreated or misrepresented her, not that they ever had to in the first place. It appears to me that she's trying to get more punches in now that Super Mega has made a return to get her revenge on people that are much better off without her.
Even people like Nick is not green, even though he tried to get himself off the situation and somehow try to make a comeback himself. I'm not sure if he hasn't made a comeback yet. Obviously, there's no way he's going to because, well, everyone, lost their, Nick lost their respect after the whole situation. So I'm not sure Nick can even come back. So yeah, of course, Lex is gonna have a grudge against him and try to drag him into her follow-up video, trying to also drag Super Mega as soon as they came back.
Why she's doing this, who knows? It's hard to tell what exactly she has to gain from this. The only thing that switches more than her story in this video is her clothes. Not only does she switch up the story, but she contradicts herself multiple times throughout this video about her vindictive nature and not having a vendetta, as well as what happened between her and Nick. Most of it is nonsense that's irrelevant to the story at hand and is simply just a belligerent yap session done in resentment to Super Mega. The spite is very clear, and unfortunately, it appears to be yet another Katie Bugs type of situation with very little to gain, but a lot to destroy. Before I end this video, I want to make it very clear, Don may have been an asshole, Don may have made Lex uncomfortable. That's something that we can speculate on or accept as fact, but he didn't sexually assault Lex. This issue is something that could have been entirely resolved privately, like mature adults. I'm not defending Don by any means. If he did make her feel uncomfortable, that's something that I'd admonish anyone for, and it's not something that a lot of people deny, but it's no reason to turn around and attempt to cancel an organization that had no involvement in the private relationship between two adults. At the end of the day, what seems to be the case is that Lex had a messy falling out with Don was an asshole, and instead of doing the normal thing and either pressing charges or moving on from it like a normal adult, she made it into Super Mega's problem and
Pressing charges if, he actually committed sexual assault, which it wasn't.
held them responsible, ultimately leading to their brief cancellation. This isn't an issue you outsource to external parties. This is an issue that people feel entitled to spout on the internet, when in reality, it's no one's business but your own to resolve with conflicting parties. Matt and Ryan only being friends of said parties. That's all I got. Thanks for watching.
Yep, and as a matter of fact, get this like on this video because it's really good. And because I also watched the video that he made about Eat This Online, you get to subscribe, man. You really deserve it. You make good content. Okay, you deserve more than 2K subs.